Greetings and salutations, and welcome back to some more Woodless survival. Yes, I'm still in the borrowed house, and yes, I'm still attempting to travel all the way down to bedrock, get some diamond, get some nether, some obsidian, and get to the nether. That's the goal. As soon as we get to the nether, basically challenge over. This is episode 12. Anybody that's been been with me through these entire 12 episodes will realize and will instantly appreciate how close we are to finished. But I thank everybody for being with me with all 12 episodes, to be honest with you. Solely because the first 4 episodes were me looking for a crafting table to salvage from a village. Which is just obscene, by the way. Because if you've never tried it, it's not good. It's not a good time. I don't know how many ladders I'm going to need, but I know how many ladders I'm going to use. Oh, my sticks are there. Okay. I need copper. I, for one, am very happy with the fact that they've made copper implements, like copper swords and everything. I think it's great. I also probably going to need a new copper shovel, so we'll just grab one of them. So I'm going to probably burn through them all. Wait, I'm going to just deposit my ladders, too, so I don't accident. Whoops. That's fine. Oh, I don't have any place to put gravel. Okay. Which, by the way, I tried using the spear. I don't care for it. I get told by people, specifically my nephew, who knows more about Minecraft than I do. I get told by him, "Oh, that's because you have to move faster. The faster you move, the more damage the spear does." And I said, the spear doesn't hardly do any damage, even when you're standing still and hitting them. Like, it should function like a trident. Am I wrong? You should be able to throw it. I mean, makes sense to me. People have thrown spears for years. That rhymed. Take a look. The javelin. How many javeliners were throughout history through military conflicts? I think every single person's got a javelin there. But no, apparently not. Apparently, throwing spears is just like a taboo thing. You can't throw spears anymore. So it's verboten. They've restricted it now. And in all honesty, it should just function like a trident. Like, the first click should be a stabbing, a thrusting maneuver with the spear, and then the right click should be the throwing. Which, the longer you hold the right click button, the farther it throws. The more power you put behind it. And that's not even that hot of a take on it, to be honest with you. There could be a hotter take, but, Oh, let me go one step further. Not really a hot take, but I went to see my nutritionist. It was a few days ago. It's like 3 days ago, something like that. And she does nutrition and she does naturopathic medicine. All right. And most people say, well, naturopathic medicine's quackery. Well, whatever. To each their own. But the way she finds how this naturopathic problem is, like, the way she finds it is through a thing called applied kinesiology. Now, applied kinesiology is really weird, but it's cool at the same time. So I was having the weirdest shoulder pain. Left shoulder. to the right of the shoulder blade, right? And it was radiating around up and over the top to right up here in the front. And so she did the applied kinesiology, and she found out that it is a lymph node, that the lymph node up in here is like chock full. And sure enough, anybody can find that out. Like, if you want to know how full your lymph system is, your lymphatic system, and how taxed it is, what you do is you just massage, like, from, like, here to here, from, like, just above the pectoral up here to the shoulder. And if it hurts, fair assumption is, if it hurts when you press on it, your lymph nodes are swollen and your lymphatic system is being taxed, effectively. So she did the whole applied kinesiology, found out that, hey, my lymph nodes are being taxed, and she put me on this series of drops. You put 10 drops in a mouthful of water and just drink it down. Tastes of nothing. But it's to help clear out the lymph. Been on it 2 days. The pain in my shoulder blade is gone. Like, gone. I used to have to get it massaged every so often. Just to not have it be painful. I thought it was how I was sleeping. I thought it was everything. I mean, I thought it was, problems with circulation. I thought it was... I went down through the entire list of what it could be, right? Nope. Turns out it's just a lymph problem. And so I was put on drops for the lymph problem. And she says, when that clears up, she's like, because we see her again in like 2 months, 2.5 months. She's like, when it clears up, and when it's all said and done, she's like, when you come back to see me, she's like, you might not be on the drops again. Well, we'll find out. And I've been dealing with a lot of sinus stuff too. That's related to the weather. My head is like a 8-pound barometer. Whenever you go from having nice weather to terrible weather back to nice weather, my sinuses just get full and then go empty and then fill back up again. It sucks. It gives me, sinus headaches. Gives me a whole bunch of sinus pressure. It's terrible. But yeah, I totally recommend people, going to see something that's a little off kilter in terms of like remedies. Now, a lot of people are like, "Oh, the new age panaceas don't work. The new age medicines aren't good." Blah blah blah. Like, downplay it all you want. Downplay it all you want. I go with what has gotten me results. And I've always been a results oriented individual, right? My mother first started seeing the same naturopath, and she dropped 40 pounds. Her energy increased. She's on absolutely zero medications, and she's 70. Zero meds. No high blood pressure medications, no cholesterol medications, nothing. She's on supplements and herbal remedies. That's it. And me being the results-oriented individual, I sat right there and I'm like, sounds to me like there's something to it. That's when I started seeing her. And then I was put on keto. And I was put on... mind you, she did the kinesiology to find out what diet works best for me. And it came back keto. Absolutely no fruits, very few vegetables, as high fat as possible. Like the one time I went in there, I said, I asked, what should I, could I drink milk? Could I be allowed to drink milk? And I was told by her it would be better if I drank heavy cream. And I just kind of sat there and I'm like, oh, okay. It's kind of a wild thing to say, it would be better if I drank heavy cream. Because most people don't ever hear that. But yet I do. I drink heavy cream instead of milk because heavy cream has less of the milk sugars and more fat. So it's better for you. And then, of course, they go and they invert the food pyramid. And what do you find out? Hey, fats and meats are good for people. Ain't that weird? Hmm. Wait, let's say, wait a minute. I'm just gonna toss all this stuff away. Not the gravel though. The gravel I'm gonna keep. Been playing too much Satisfactory. I just tried to press shift to run. But no, like everybody was like, "Oh, it's quackery, it's quackery," and it's like it's not quackery if it works. The way, to be honest with you, like if you get results from it, how can it be quackery, right? And if everybody gets results from it, how can it be quackery? And each person's different, and that's the thing: is the nutritionist would sit down and be like, "Yo, well, we've done this, 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 and this. We found out," and it's no different than like the body types from like the 6-week body makeover thing. That was custom tailored, like that was tailor made nutrition for people with certain body sizes. They tell you, oh, don't do this, don't do that, but do this. Like for example, in general, I'm not allowed to have any sort of like processed sugars. I'm allowed to have natural sugars like coconut sugar, honey. I'm allowed to have honey. But nothing processed. No brown sugar, no white sugar, no cane sugar. I mean, not cane sugar. Right? I'm allowed to have certain cane sugars, but you take those all away, and I'm not allowed to have any carbs. Or actually, I'm limited, I should say. I'm limited on the number of carbs I can have. Limited to 4 carbs a week. 4 servings of carbs a week. And yesterday I had one serving of carbs, I believe. Yeah. And then tomorrow, no, not tomorrow, day after. Is it day after? Anyway, it's coming soon. Soon I'm gonna end up having more servings of carbs because we have like pizza crusts, right? And we haven't used them. And those pizza crusts, we froze them. What we're gonna do is we're gonna do like a taco pizza. It's gonna come across a little weird, but anyway, we take the pizza crust, we take a mixture of refried black beans and beef, and we're gonna kind of spread that across as like a paste. And when we do that, what's going to happen is we're going to then use the paste and we're going to bake it. It's going to be fully cooked beef by the time or before we even bake it. Baking it is just to make sure it stays hot and gets nice and crispy. You know, the crust gets crispy. And it's to make sure that it's hot, that stuff when we put the cheese on it, cheese melts. Like, because obviously I like my cheese to be slightly melted on top and not like overly melted and stringy. But nevertheless, we're going to do like a taco pizza. And we're going to have salsa. I don't really do much salsa. Deep Slate. And the reason I don't do much salsa is I've never really been much of a salsa person. And that's because it's not because it's a tomato product, it's not because it has, a whole bunch of vegetables. Because I mean, I've had peppers, I've had onions, I've had tomatoes. But not, like, I'm not a fan of, like, cutting a tomato into slices and just eating it. Right? That's not me. That's pretty much what salsa is. It's like, it's just tomato, chopped up. Diced tomato, diced peppers, some onions. It's like, I don't want that. right? Like for me, onions and peppers, you have to cook them, get them nice and soft. Not like mush, but get them nice and soft, and then put them in like a sausage. Put them like in a sausage blend, not on top, in a sausage blend, and then cook the sausage. Oh, it comes out brilliant, right? But hearing that I have to basically be relegated to eating fats, you see the whole invert the pyramid thing. It's like the South Park meme. And you end up inverting the pyramid, and you find out, hey, look, it's actually better for you. And you want to know what the thing is it's to each their own, because there are people out there that cannot function on a high protein diet. There are people out there that cannot function on a high fat diet. They are told that they're supposed to eat more fruits and vegetables than high proteins, high fats, right? And for those people, that's fine. Like if it works for them, more power to them. And I wish them all the best. Honestly, I've never been the person to say, "Oh, I hope this happens." No, I wish everybody the best. I want what's best for everybody, right? And people say, "Oh, yeah, you say that." No, I mean it. I mean it. Of course, you'd have those people, and this is where it's going to get a little off the rails. You have those people that would say, "Well, if you wish the best for everybody, why are you against, mass migration, legal or otherwise?" Well, because mass migration means they're not actively trying to become part of the society. And people would say, well, you don't know that. Well, okay. Let's use it for instance, right? You know Dr. Noah Zarden. If you've watched any sort of My 600 Pound Life, my mother watches the show. But if you watched any sort of My 600 Pound Life, you would notice that he's Dr. Noah Zarden. And he's from Iran. He's an Iranian. He moved here after he got an education there in Iran, and then moved here, continued his education here, and became a gastric surgeon here. He lives in Texas. And with him living in Texas, he does a lot of work on everybody that's over 600 pounds. And he does not care who the people are. He does not care what their background is. He does not care what gender they are. He does not care at all. How do I know this? One of the people was a 640 something pound transgender woman. I mean, not post-op, but so technically a dude going around acting effectively. I know that's going to be an unpopular opinion, but whatever. We're gonna call it what it is, because the guy had not gone through the whole surgery, and even then, it doesn't make him a woman, because again, genetics kick in, and you find out that hey, the chromosomes, the chromosomes can't lie. Now you do have genetic defects where you have people that are hermaphrodites, and that is a genetic defect. That is a genetic abnormality, and that's as far as that goes, scientifically speaking. But back to Dr. Noah Zarden. An Iranian. Now, mind you, everybody was told Iranians are bad people. They don't like anyone. They're hostile to the United States. Always chanting death to America. Coming here, pushing their religion on other people. And if you didn't conform, etc. and so on. Right? Dr. Noah Zarden, when people walk through the door, he says, "How y'all doing?" Y'all. From an Iranian. It's, "How y'all doing?" Hold on, I got a text message I have to answer. So, with that, he then takes these people, and he does not care about anything. He only cares about what they eat for a diet and why that is. And then he sends them off to counseling because a lot of weight issues are from psychological issues, usually from abuse. And he'll sit there and he'll tell them, "Hey, look, you could have lost 30 pounds this month. You could have lost 30 pounds this month. Or you should have lost 60 pounds this month. At your weight, you could have lost 100 pounds." And he still does this. And he takes his time with these people, and he basically says it's up to them. And it's true, it is up to them. Not once does he try to push his ideology, his religion, his belief system, nothing. He's here, and he has assimilated to the culture, and he has assimilated to the people here. And he keeps everything that he does in his personal life personal. And he's a bariatric surgeon. Now compare that with other people who come here, set up camp, build mosques, build giant golden deities well, not golden deities, they're brass or bronze, and they build them to, like, Hanamat Kabacham and Shiva. Even though that's India and that's not Iran, but still you have Iranians and you have other people coming here, and they're chanting things like "Death to America" after coming here and being a part of society, earning money here. And then they bite the hands that feeds them. No. This is why mass migration's bad. Like, comparatively, if you were to take what you have now, if you were to take the immigration system of Japan and just carbon copy it here, the immigration system would be far better off. To my knowledge, to my last known, when I remember the last time I read about Japan's immigration, because there was one point in time that I wanted to try becoming a Japanese English teacher, becoming a jet, going over there and teaching English, because I love the culture. I love the culture, the architecture. I spent most of my time here watching Gaki no Tsukai. I mean, I'm well aware of a lot of cultural things that go on there, but nevertheless, I looked at their immigration, and in order to migrate to Japan, you have to have some level of Japanese language understanding. You have to be able to read a certain level of Japanese. You have to be able to speak a certain level of Japanese and understand it when it's spoken to you. You have to then go there, make sure you have a work visa in place before you go there for work. And you have to be able to be a citizen of good standing for 5 years. And then you have to renounce your citizenship of your former country to become a Japanese citizen. A citizen of good standing for 5 years. We don't have that here. It's like, is this your visa? Yeah. They stamp it. What's your reason for being here? Well, I plan to migrate. Okay, take this exam. And then after they take the exam, they just kind of, oh, well, you took the exam and you did well on it. You just have to understand rudimentary English to take the exam. It's not hard to get in here. It really isn't. I have a cousin that works in Border Patrol, and he says it's actually easier to come through the border of the United States, whether it be legally or illegally. And he says getting here legally is easy. He's like, you could just come here on an education visa. He says, but you come here legally, and then you get what is called papered residency status. You can get it in any number of states. You can get it in Texas, you can get it in Oklahoma, Kansas, you name it. There's tons of states you can get it in. It's not limited to, states that want mass migration. And when you get the papered residency, all you have to do is say, oh, well, I have residency here, so deporting them is harder. And that's the God's honest truth. He said multiple times that there are people he cannot deport because they have paper residency. And that's kind of harrowing, if you think about it. That's like, if people are coming here and they're going to contribute, that's fine. But why does everybody think that we're somehow the solution to to the international woes? We're not. And we shouldn't be. Now, if they want to come here and get educated and then go back to their home country and improve situation there by using the knowledge they've gained here and improve the situation there, or watching the systems that we have here and saying, you know what, that system would work in my country, fine and dandy. Go for it. I don't care. Take use of our education system, even though it's flawed. Take use of our education system and go back and improve the lives of your home country. Perfect. Wonderful. No problems with it whatsoever. But there's a lot of them here that have committed fraud, lack of a better term. And there's a lot here that have proceeded to make it so that it's difficult for other people to get certain things, certain, I can't even say social, I mean, it is social programs. There's a lot of things that they do, there's a lot of them that do apply for social programs. The fact that they get free education K through 12 and doesn't even cost them a dime. So if they come here, have a child, and they're not legal citizens here, they can still put those children through the education system, which I say that should not be allowed, because that's just a drain on tax dollars. Not that the public education system is really that good for high school, because it's not. I still don't like it. Of course, I was met with pushback by one of my friends. One of my friends sat there and said, well, what difference does it make? He's like, if you're paying taxes, what difference does it make where the tax dollars go? Okay. I said, so, mind you, my friend was a bit of a communist. He became a bit of a communist. I said, okay. I said, how about this? I said, how about I walk into your house and take half your stuff and give it to the person down the street? I said, you don't know the person. You've never met the person. But I'm taking half your stuff and I'm giving it to the person down the street. 42 to 50% of your stuff is now theirs. How would that make you feel? And he goes, well, that's just a bit extreme. And I said, no, it's not, actually. I said, the majority of people in the States that are in the middle class, even lower middle class, like my brother's in lower middle class because he makes, like 60-something thousand a year, 62 or $70,000 a year, something like that. He works engineering at a furniture factory. But anyway, he's making pretty good money, making pretty good coin. He's getting taxed at a higher rate than the lower class, right? And even the lower class still has a pretty high tax rate. But even then, let's take a look at it. How would you like it if half your stuff was taken and given to somebody down the street you didn't know? He's like, I don't think I'd have that much of a problem with it if it helped him out. I said, but here's the thing. I said, why are they entitled to half your stuff? And he kind of sat there and he goes, well, they're not. I said, exactly. So why do they get it? And he's like, well, I don't mind. I said, okay. And he goes, so you're saying, he then says to me, so you're saying you do have a problem with this? Yeah, absolutely I do. I said, I'm working for it. Shouldn't I be able to keep it? He goes, so you don't want to help people? I said, that's where you're wrong. I said, I want to choose where I'm helping people. I'd rather help people I know, people that are close to me, that may fall on hard times. I would rather help people I know than a random person I've never met. Now, if a person's on hard times and it's a random person I've never met and they are in dire straits, sure, absolutely, love to help them. But it's like, you know how many veterans there are that go around without help, and these are people that have been in service to the country, and they're still not getting help. But random people from parts unknown are getting a free ride. There's a problem here, big problem. Him and I didn't see eye to eye on it. I said, now if I could earmark my tax dollars and say I want it to go to this, 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 and this, perfect. Making sure I know where they went. They wouldn't, though, because we've already discussed this. NGOs, super PACs, that kind of thing. You never know where your tax dollars are going. Usually some war chest. But that's the thing. It's like if you could pick where your tax dollars went, I think people wouldn't have that much of an issue with taxes. But they don't have that choice. It's just siphoned out of your bank account and given to people. Anyone, really. Which seems a little odd. Right? Seems odd to me. Some people might not have an issue with it, but it seems very odd to me. Like, why are you just effectively taking something I worked for and going, here, to someone else? It makes as much sense as me going in on Thursday, grabbing my paycheck and being like, haha, there's a guy halfway down the street that I don't know, and I'm like, here you go. Now, the entire world's not about money. And it shouldn't be. Because it's one of those things. If everybody's so worried about money, then they're not, you're kind of missing the forest through the trees there. But there's also this. There's also the fact of doing what's required bank taxes, at least for now, because when people find out federal income tax, it's voluntary. Yeah, a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people know it, and they're just like, well, I don't want to make waves. It's like, I'm sorry, but when you have people showing up and taking your money away because they said so, oh, we're going to take your money away, and if you try to do anything or if you try to stop us, scary guys with guns come and take it away. Why does the IRS have that power, first and foremost? That should be, be questioned. Anyhow, it's that you got into a point where once, if you had no taxes and everybody got to keep what they earned, what would people do with it? Right? It's like it's like life is not about money. It really isn't. And people would say, well, yeah, you say that but you're sitting there behind a computer screen, could possibly generate passive income. Well, I could, yeah, absolutely. If I was a big enough channel, and I was acting like every other, individual out there on YouTube, basically screaming and making a fool of myself, rather than trying to have substantive discussion and be somewhat insightful, I could easily make passive income. But the thing is this. What's the price? What's the price of it, right? I'd rather inform people and have a discussion, even if it's through the comments alone, even if it's just a matter of difference of opinion. And I don't have a problem with having a difference of opinion with people, right? Because they're free to have that opinion. And having that discussion and having that open forum of ideas is what makes this platform what it is, right? Like way back in the day, it used to say broadcast yourself. Well, most people aren't broadcasting themselves anymore. They're broadcasting a hollowed out, disingenuous version of themselves. A version that they just show the world. A mask, if you will, a facade. Me, This is how I am. Philosophical, cynical at times, douchey at times, opinionated, insightful at times, wise at times, funny at times. But it is who I am. You saw me on the street, you'd see nothing in it. You wouldn't see anything different at all. I'd be much the same. I come across the same way. And there is more to be said about that, and that is the brash, opinionated nature that I have is seen as one of two ways, right? And I mentioned this to someone else. I said they either look at it like, boy, that's really refreshing, or they look at it like, that guy's a bit of a prick. There is no in between. It's 50-50. When this polarizes this world is becoming, or as polarized as this world is, that divide only widens. And I've told people multiple times, I said, look, just be you. Be you, say what you think. If people don't like it, that's a them problem. It's true. It is a them problem. Just be true to what you believe in. Stand up for what you believe in and be true to it. If you believe it to be true in your heart, stick up for it. Now, there are positions that I would never take on certain things. And to those people, it's like, if that's your position, that's fine. You're allowed to have that position on it. But do not expect me to humor that position on it. And there's various things, right? But I think everybody that has a standpoint should be able to voice their standpoint. But be very aware that by voicing your standpoint, you are open to criticism by that. And that's the thing. You have to realize that criticism comes by having a standpoint. So if you have an opinion, yes, people can criticize it. That is allowable. And I think it's one of those things that we don't take it for granted, but we often take a look at it. We go, I'm being criticized for my standpoint. So we get angry, we double down. It's like, okay, instead of getting angry and doubling down on your standpoint, you know your standpoint. You're firm in your convictions. Start asking questions instead of defending your point. But if you ask your questions in such a way that you are defending your point, but enlightening the minds of fellow man, it's way different. Right? It's a little trick I love to pull on, generally, I would have to say, the more liberal, left-leaning people. I have friends of both stripes. I have some liberal friends. I have some far left friends that have gone communist. And I've gotten some, far right friends. I've also gotten some libertarian friends that are so anti-government and anarchistic that it's even a position I wouldn't take. As much as I don't like government, it's like, there still needs to be some sort of governance, but they need to be reined in a lot. A lot. Nevertheless, I've got friends of many different stripes. And yet, the ones that are far left-leaning and the ones that are anarchistic, you can pose a statement in way of a question and get them to respond to the question. And when they do, what inevitably happens is they have to take a look at it and really think about it, right? Like, for example, this was a while ago. This was back in 2012-ish, right around there. I said, so here we go. It was about immigration back then too. And they were talking about migration and how migration should be easier and how migration to the country should be more of an easier thing to do and that we should allow more people in, etc. I said, okay. Okay, I totally understand that point of view. I said, now, wouldn't it be a wise idea to know who we're getting before they show up? And they're like, well, yeah, absolutely, 100%. I said, okay. So let's go down that thought process. I said, wouldn't it be a smarter idea to put U.S. immigration and customs, U.S. CIS buildings, U.S. customs and immigration buildings in those countries? Like at a U.S. embassy or just outside a U.S. embassy? So they could go to the USCIS building, talk to a person in their native language, get education materials on how to migrate here properly, and have everything ready so that they can take the exam there, pass the exam there, then get carte blanche to come here and migrate here after they've put in the time there. But they would have to study up on the customs and everything there. That way they can legally migrate without having to make a hazardous trek. They just go there, get the education material, and they can take the test at the embassy, right next to the USCIS building. I said, wouldn't that make a better idea than to have them come all the way here and then potentially cross the border illegally, making them, by all metrics, a felon? Wouldn't that be a better idea? And they're like, yeah, that would be a better idea. I said, okay, wouldn't that also employ people in other countries so that maybe they have more job opportunities so that they wouldn't need to come here? Because you need paper pushers. You need people that run those USCIS buildings to push the paper. You need those people to have, assistance. You need security at those places. So there's job opportunities for a lot of people. And I'm like, wouldn't that be a better use of people's time and people's efforts? And I was met with, that's not a bad idea. It's like, well, okay. I said, so what you basically just said then was we're on the same side when it comes to migration. We're just looking at it from a different perspective. I'm looking at it from it's fine to migrate, but do all the work there. Don't flood the system here and expect the system to hold it. And that was the key difference that we had. So after this discussion, and it was a rather long discussion, it was like an hour, hour and a half, their perspective on it slightly shifted. I said, okay. I said, now we were talking about products too. I said, now products don't get made here in the States. They said, yeah, that's a problem. They're like, I want to see more made in America products. I said, okay. So the problem there is when you start putting out, you want to see more made in America products, what inevitably occurs is people generally don't like purchasing American products because they cost more. And they shouldn't. They should cost less. The only way to get them to cost less is if they're made here. In order to get them to be made here, you need to put on taxes so that the cost to produce them here becomes cheaper than to have them built somewhere else and ship them in. This is what tariffs are for. Now everybody says, well, the tariffs get passed on to the consumer. Yes and no. If a corporation looks at something and says it's going to cost us less money to pack up shop and move to a different country and build there and produce there, they'll do it. And a lot of corporations really don't care. They just look at it like, yeah, sure, whatever. But if you realize that the things you're getting, things that are specific, like things that have the highest markup right now, are consumer electronics, right? Consumer electronics that are made in other places like India, China, Taiwan, Vietnam, Indonesia. You're getting 4, 5, 600% markup, maybe more. China, especially when a lot of stuff was being made in China. The quality wasn't there. All the stuff was being made in China. And then what happened? You were paying enormous amounts for substandard quality. Why? Why did Americans have to settle for mediocre products at a higher price? Because the costs were too high here. Partially because of union labor. Union labor is one of the hardest things for a company to swallow. Is union labor. Because you have to pay for legacy costs. You have to pay for all the insurance. You have to pay for all that stuff. And what do the unions get? They get an enormous amount of money for minimal work. And of course, people are going to say, well, you're wrong. But I'm not. Take a look at what the Union of Auto Workers gets for pay and for a benefits package. There's a reason why a lot of people go into state level work. There's a reason why people go into county, state, and federal level work. Because the pay grade is enormous. And the benefits are guaranteed. And your retirement's basically set in stone. Yeah, you'll work a garbage job for 25 years, but guess what? Your retirement package is enormous. And you can't be fired out of a union job. You can only be reassigned. Because that's what the unions are for. The unions they prevent you from being fired. You only get to make a lateral shift. It doesn't matter how good or bad you work. My dad used to drive truck. He's since passed, obviously. He passed back in 2020. Right around there, 2020, 2021. He passed back then. He used to drive truck. There were union guys that were called lumpers. Lumpers are people you pay to have your truck offloaded. So that you don't have to do it yourself. You don't have to break down your own freight. Lumpers do it. You're paying these lumpers to have it done. These people are unionized. So they're getting paid extra by the truck, by the driver, as well as sucking down union wages. Admittedly, their wages are less because they're getting paid extra in lumper fees. Now, not all lumpers are unionized. Some of them are they're wage workers. Some of them are. A lot of the lumpers are unionized. The ones that are unionized, you can tell. They don't do the job effectively. They are gold bricking on the job. They're sleeping. They are lazy. Because they know they can't be fired. They know they can't be terminated at all. Job security. They know they have it. And so, they just sit there like a lump. Sucking down paychecks. Kind of like Congress. Which, shock as that comes, I'm sure that comes as a shock to nobody. Congress is worthless too. So it's not much of a shock to anybody. You have, union workers not doing their job and getting paid enormous amounts of money. Which, by the way, Congress gets paid like $173,000 per person. Most people don't know that. Most people sit there. I know this is kind of this whole conversation is meandered to and fro, all over the place. But most people don't know this. They sit there. They're like, "Oh, well, we're gonna tax the rich people. We want to tax this person and that person." Okay. You want to tax them? Okay, sweet. Bernie Sanders is one of the biggest proponents of this. We're going to tax the billionaires. We need to tax these people making billions of dollars, making sure they pay their fair share. Okay, Bernie. What about you? And he'll say, oh, I'm not a billionaire. No, you're not. You're not a billionaire, Bernie. But, like, let's take a look at something. You may not be a billionaire, but, if you're talking taxing based on wage and salary, which is what they talk about, and then they say billionaires, which there's nobody out there making billions in salary, by the way. He's like, well, we're going to tax them. Okay. Jeff Bezos, perfect example. He's one of those billionaires that Bernie hates. Bernie hates billionaires. That should be his campaign slogan. Anyway, Bernie. And I do like to do that. Have you ever noticed how Bernie and Lewis Black are like one and the same? They even do the same like finger thing, and they even speak the same. It's like Bernie Sanders and Lewis Black are separated at birth. Check it out sometime. It's really weird. It's funky. Anyway, I digress. He says there he wants to tax the billionaires. Okay, Bernie. Let's use you versus Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos has billions, all invested in hard assets. And those are in brick and mortar stores of Amazon. They are in assets like his yachts, his boat, or his yachts, his cars, his houses, any property he owns that he's not leasing, any property he owns he is leasing, stocks, bonds, anything that's a physical, holdable, tangible asset that can be liquidated, otherwise known as a liquidatable asset. Liquidatable assets are still solid assets. You cannot be taxed on solid assets. That's taxing on net worth. His net worth is billions. His wage is $86,000. You can Google it. I did. Jeff Bezos makes $86,000, or is like $86,520 or $85,620, something like that. He makes $86,000 a year. Bernard Sanders makes $173,000 a year. You're making more than twice of Jeff Bezos' salary. Bernard, you want to tax the billionaires. You want people to pay their fair share. Let's start with the politicians making twice what Bezos does. And I'll tell you this right now. If any of the stocks that Bezos and Elon own, and anybody else, the Koch brothers, Warren Buffett, any of them, if any of those stocks that they own are generating dividends, those dividend profits, they have to pay income tax on, as well as capital gains tax, I believe. And if they don't, it's a big no-no. It's a big time fraud. Now, there are ways to kind of worm your way out of paying the immense amount of taxes. You know, political donations, charitable donations, so on and so forth. You can write it off. You can have tax write-offs. However, one of the ways to circumvent paying those taxes on things like dividends is by reinvesting. Now, if they take those stocks, they take the dividends they make, they take that profit and they reinvest it and buy more stock. Or they use it to buy another piece of property, to build more stores on, to build more of anything. So they're using it to gain capital. Then they can't be taxed on it because they used it towards capital. Even if they're investing in somebody else's business, that's being a venture capitalist. That's how you avoid getting taxed on certain things. Now, the suggestion is, hey, let's tax them money based on net worth. You don't want to do that. Reason being, if you start taxing on net worth, they're gonna pack up house and leave. They're just gonna jump ship. They're gonna go to a tax haven like Taiwan or Hong Kong, because then they don't get taxed for holdings. They don't get taxed for net worth there. This is why you can't tax for net worth. If you switch the tax code over to net worth from income, you'll bankrupt America in 6 months. Guaranteed. Now, if you levy tariffs, which do work from time to time, there are some cases where the tariffs actually increase the cost to the consumer. However, it's rare. Because how tariffs work is, if we're importing it, the home country applies a tariff, we have to pay it. If we're exporting it and they want our products, we apply the tariff, they have to pay it. Now, how this works is, recently there was a trade deal that was inked just before Senai Takaichi got in, and it was for the Japanese to buy U.S. steel, and then they were going to take the U.S. steel over there and they were going to make Nippon steel with it. Nippon steel is then sold to other places in Asia. Thing is Japan was buying up our steel from us and paying the tariff. They paid the extra money on the steel and said, we'll take it. And then part of that trade deal is that Japan's going to start building Toyotas here. They're going to build certain Toyotas here, or that they're allowed to export certain Toyotas to here. Which one of them that didn't meet the emission standards was the $10,000 new Toyota Hilux that is purely mechanical. Now, I don't know when they're coming here, but that kind of reduces some of the tariffs they pay for this U.S. steel. So that's how tariffs work from time to time. The other way to do it, and to increase your tax revenue here, is to do what's called a value-added tax, otherwise known as a VAT tax. Now, a VAT tax is any new non-essential purchase gets a 10 to 15% value-added tax on it. So foods would not be taxable, etc. But everything else that's luxury would be taxed at 15 to 30%, right? So the TV you purchase is non-essential, so extra 30%. The microphone you purchase. Now, if you purchase a microphone and you're a singer, or you're doing, like, you're a personality, or you're a pundit or a podcaster, that might be deemed essential. We'd have to see how that plays out. A vehicle, is that deemed essential? Maybe, maybe not. Hard to tell it. But that's how you do it. Because then if you take a look at it, all the luxury goods that people go out and purchase would cost more. But then you take away the income tax, so everybody would have more money to work with. The other way to do it is, if you want to lower the cost of goods, one of the easiest ways to lower the cost of goods, and this is going to sound completely strange and foreign to everyone, lower the tax rate. Lower the tax rate and lower the minimum wage. Make your minimum wage $5 and then make it merit-based. So they must be paid $5, but then make everything merit-based. Your worker quality goes up because people are going to actually work harder to make more. And it would be based on performance numbers. You go merit-based, low minimum wage, and what do you get? You get a higher quality product, harder workers because they want that higher money, and because your baseline overhead for your corporation's lower because of the lower minimum wage, you now have more money in which to pass the savings on to people. Because once the price comes down on goods and services, people buy more. But I just hit to an hour. that's going to do it for this episode. I'm almost to bedrock. I'm hoping to find some diamond, and we are hoping to finish this by episode 13 or 14. If it goes past episode 15, I don't know. It might be hard for me to find diamonds. We'll see. But I hope everybody has a fantastic evening, a wonderful tomorrow, and as always, have a good one.